Thought I saw something. No will.
The stealth genre has always been a unique area for video games, requiring particularly well-crafted ideas for the best experience.
I should hide the body. Someone might notice.
Okay, I think it's safe to talk now. It's always had a soft spot in my heart, but not something that has been a primary focus for me as I grew up with games. Still, I've played a lot of them. As time went on and games in general really expanded, the accessibility factor became paramount and many genres began to reflect it through simplification or the term streamlining, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard. I'm not saying that this is inherently always a bad outcome for new games or when it's done to beloved franchises, but the end result can sometimes alienate long-term fans of the genre and the modern audience by trying to cater to both, especially with games which focus on stealth. For example, Thief is getting a reboot because bows are in apparently, and it's certainly quite a difference from the past titles in the series, which makes sense I guess considering the last Thief was made in 2004, almost 10 years ago, but still the accessibility factor comes into play. Thief was very effective at strong atmospheric gameplay in a gothic steampunk Victorian era setting, letting the player loose in large environments as the lovable pickpocket Garrett. You had set objectives and limited resources for each of your missions and had to use the environment in combination with Garrett's abilities and tools for success, like his trusty water arrows to darken rooms so you can clobber the guards who have an IQ of about 20 with your blackjack. There definitely wasn't a lot of hand-holding, and the real joy of Thief was the exploration and fulfilling Garrett's good name by looting the shit out of everything and trying to avoid direct conflict with enemies. Let's dive into the reboot and see what has changed and what has been added. Gameplay footage has been relatively scarce so far, but it provides a general idea of the direction the game is heading in, judging from what had been shown at E3 this year. Starting with Garrett's character, in the original trilogy he was voiced by Stephen Russell, and while Garrett remained serious about his work, he still made plenty of dark, sarcastic quips about the many situations which were brought before him, and was always enjoyable to listen to.
It's a throne room. How pretentious can you get?
This was even after he had some horrible things done to him. The new Garrett seems to have taken on the generic badass, dark and edgy type persona, and appears rather humorless, at least from what I've heard so far.
I am Garrett. But you can call me
Garrett, the treasure
Killer.
As this is a complete reboot which doesn't follow the previous game's storyline, they've also introduced a new voice actor for Garrett, Romano Ozari. Let's just hope he doesn't start saying fuck you for every guard he knocks out.
We wanted to bring him more for the modern audience of today's console market. He's now in the game doing more action move.
Moving on to the actual gameplay, we can already notice some things. No, not that it's a rip off that game you're all thinking of. If anybody says that, I will fucking murder you. There's more activity on the heads-up display with an always visible health bar and ammo count, along with a little bit obnoxious screen effect when you're in darkness, which replaces the light gem. There also appears to be text flashing up on the screen to reiterate objectives to the player, and controversially, a nice little XP pop-up when Garrett performs specific acts. All of these things in combination can really hinder immersion, much like the reward pop-ups did in Fear 3. Seriously man, fuck that game. In the original trilogy, they made an effort to only show HUD elements when it was pertinent to what the player was doing, like cycling through their inventory, and when the player did something to warrant any kind of textual pop-up, it was far less intrusive in the screen space. One of the designers mentions during the demo that you are able to turn specific HUD elements on and off. This sounds like a good idea in concept, but it feels lazy to me on the developer's end, because the designers leave it to the player to essentially create their own difficulty, which is in the same league as players creating artificial challenges for themselves, for no literal reward. The only reasonable restriction the player should place on themselves is how often they quicksave, which most stealth games accommodate, while others may have limited saves or only a checkpoint system. Getting back to those XP pop-ups, this brings me to probably the most contentious addition moving Thief into the current generation, Focus. So contentious that the designer running the demo had to immediately stipulate after mentioning it that it was completely optional. Focus allows Garrett some supernatural powers like slowing down time to land sick headshots, highlight objects of interest in the environment, or partially see through walls. I'm sure you'll remember they added a similar mechanic to another season franchise, Hitman in Absolution, known as Instinct. Adding features like this to modernize a game generally irks long-term fans because A, it makes the player feel less vulnerable, I'll explain why this is important a bit later, and B, it causes doubt in their mind when they begin to question what else in the game has been given a similar treatment. In fact, I noticed 3 other things in the Thief Reboot playthrough. They have a button prompt now for taking down an enemy, which plays a neat little cutscene of Garrett whacking them over the head because
when you press a button, something awesome has to happen. So button awesome.
The rope arrow's viability appears to be condensed to only wooden posts which have ropes tied around them, much like in Tomb Raider 2013, as opposed to any wooden or grassy surface. And finally, the combat. Oh. No, I can't do it to a Thief game. Thief is a true stealth experience. I can't do it. I just got... Oh no. Upon further research, it looks like these aren't the only additions. I'm not saying all hope is lost just yet for this Thief reboot, as it does still appear to have some qualities from the previous games, along with some welcomed additions. I feel though some of these qualities were lost in translation, lacking understanding of what made the Thief series so effective. On that note, what makes an effective stealth game? A lot of titles today incorporate varying degrees of stealth, even if it's just to the extent of being able to sneak up behind someone and whack them on the head, but I'll just focus on the games where stealth is supposed to be the core feature. I'll try and keep the amount of points condensed so I don't end up repeating myself. 1. The player needs to be vulnerable enough for stealth to be the desirable option. Almost always in modern AAA titles, the stealth genre will have the action connotation tacked onto it, as you can either play this way... Okay, looks like I gotta avoid those guys down there. I'll see what's going on in here. Oh shit. Okay, he didn't see me. Better take him out quietly. Whew, okay. Good, I don't think anyone heard me. I'll dump him over here. No one will find him there. What's going on in this room? Right, looks like there's 3 in there. I better stop time and take them all out without killing anyone. Okay, I think that's all of them. I should be clear now to move on. Oh, this way! Come on, when do we get to kill something? Yes! Haha! YOLO! Fuck yeah. Oh, you want some too, bitch? Come on! Who's next? Come the fuck on, as best you guys can do. Oh, fuck, you didn't even lift, bro. Now, in some cases, it's acceptable to make the player a formidable force, whether they're playing the game stealthily or not, such as in Deus Ex Human Revolution or the Batman Arkham games, as this doesn't betray the fundamentals of the franchise, and both styles bounce well off each other. More traditionally though for stealth, the player is supposed to be in a place of power over the opponents only when they're unseen, and are relatively fragile otherwise, so stealth becomes the smarter and sometimes only course of action. This causes the feeling of tension to become much more potent, as attempting to go on a murder spree once spotted will mean the player's own quick demise.
You have failed, apprentice. You must try again.
These feelings are further enhanced by providing the player with limited resources, whether it be for tools to down a foe from a distance or cause a quick distraction to escape from a dangerous situation. 2. The player needs to be given multiple options on how to tackle the situation. Okay, don't start blurting out that I just contradicted my first point. Allow me to explain. By multiple options, I'm not implying that one of those options is to dual wield fucking rocket launchers and go to town in a stealth game. Anyway, options are nice to have. It's a great joy to enter an area and assess your surroundings, like enemy and alarm positions, ways to cause a distraction or manipulate an environment to your favour. Better yet, getting by everyone without any of them realising you were ever there. This is called ghosting. Ghosting is what gets a lot of stealth fans' dicks hard, just the feeling of causing so much chaos with nobody having a clue who done it. The multiple options aspect bears down to intelligent level design. It really needs to entice the player to explore and get the most out of their play space, and this can be further complemented by the items available to the player. 3. Make sure the same tactics don't always work. Now you can apply this to basically any genre, but it is a fundamental for creating a fulfilling stealth experience with variety. The best way to do this is quite obviously through the obstacles you come up against, most importantly the enemies, both living and artificial. This extends to the equipment you have available to circumvent said obstacles. Of course, this rests on the reliability of the artificial intelligence, which isn't always realistic. It doesn't have to be, but there are some situations which really push it, most notably in older games. You can't really blame them for that though. For the advances which have been made in all that time, the AI should be noticing more obscure clues that the player is running amok in the shadows, just to keep things interesting, and raise the player's own self-awareness. 4. For the love of God, don't undermine the importance of sound and atmosphere. Sound has always been an important thing to articulate in a stealth game, not only for its aesthetic appeal but the way the environment reacts to your actions, whether it be from craftily throwing a rock to distract an enemy or not paying attention to the surface you're moving on, and in turn getting unwanted attention.
Very good. I did not hear you traverse the room.
Remaining unseen is about masking both your physical and audible presence. This logic works both ways however, as you can also use the sound of your adversaries by eavesdropping for important tactical information, or just to simply grasp a general idea of where they're located. This creates a living world for the player to be set loose in and allows full spatial awareness. The player has to practice restraint by staying conscious of actions that cause noises too loud like unsuppressed gunfire or moving too quickly. So, where's the stealth genre today and where is it heading? If the Thief reboot is anything to go by, then pure stealth is on a waning slope. The core audiences generally need to have constant positive reinforcement, or in simpler terms, action. If something seems too tedious or requiring too much patience with too little payoff, then it's going to be difficult to market to a wider audience, and this isn't a risk most AAA publishers are willing to take. I don't mean to insult the majority preference's intelligence, but the sales records are there clear as day, and publishers know that. Even looking at an original modern IP for the genre like Dishonored, you can only really notice semblances to the past titans of stealth, which it borrowed heavily from, but is built upon modernizations like excessive handholding, more linear level design, and making the player character too powerful like I showed previously. While it does try and accommodate more seasoned fans of the genre by allowing player-based restrictions, which I have already stated my opinion on, you're still left with a game which is vastly geared more towards a modern audience. Don't get me wrong though, the game was very fun in its own regard, but as a stealth experience, was extremely lacking. Another upcoming game, Dark, similarly doesn't appear to be the saviour the genre deserves either. I understand that it can be a great challenge to incorporate multiple playstyles into a stealth game without in some ways taking away from the core stealth experience. Unbalance between the ways the game may influence the player to engage in the multiple situations throughout a game can end up creating a grey area between what its true genre is. As for games or franchises which are intentionally geared towards action-based gameplay, you wouldn't ever see the addition of stealth sections as a negative aspect unless they were poorly crafted or simply tacked on. Similarly, you wouldn't ever see it be transformed into a stealth game or have stealth as a major feature. Now this is going to sound hipster as fuck, but the independent market is showing more promise for the stealth genre if the likes of Mark of the Ninja, Gunpoint, and Monaco amongst others are anything to go by. It's understandable that there is less pandering in this section of the video game industry as creativity tends to take precedence over monetary gain. Not that I'm sure they don't appreciate it. So, stealth. Stealth has changed. It's up to personal opinion on whether one prefers these hybrids of stealth and action rather than purely stealth experiences. There's no doubt that many of these games can be a lot of fun and sometimes the styles can bounce well off each other to create a harmonious experience. On the other end of the spectrum, you can alienate players if you force them to play one way over another, obviously with some limitations. But the most important thing is that the game is a purposeful and consistent designed vision instead of trying to incorporate too many elements, in turn devaluing the absolute experience.